Look, Frankenstein isn't the name of the monster. It was the name of the scientist who created the monster.
I don't think that's relevant in this situation.
What do you mean? I'm a video store clerk. If I don't know the basics of Frankenstein, I shouldn't be allowed to do the job.
I'm just saying that instead of explaining that, you should have just given the kid his Halloween candy.
Welcome to Rewind Video. I'm Bob.
I'm Rob.
And we love movies. Good ones, bad ones, old ones, new ones, creature features, spooky flicks, and everything in between. Rob, it is Halloween.
Spooky.
I know. This is my favorite time of year to devote to movie watching. Now, obviously, I love marathoning horror movies in the weeks leading up to October 31st, but this is also my favorite holiday for decorating.
Really?
It is. Trick-or-treaters are going to be making the rounds tonight, of course, and Rewind Video is decked out with an assortment of spooky accents. We've got the giant skeleton sitting outside, cobwebs draped across the shelves here in the store, little tombstones on the front desk.
Big giant VCR skeleton outside.
Yes. I think we've gone all out. And
We really have.
I couldn't help but to notice that you have gotten into the action with a funny little prank of your own. Don't think I haven't noticed that anytime I go into the storage closet, there's a pair of red glowing eyes peering at me from the shadows.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, I'm sure it's some little battery-powered contraption that you've put together that's staring back at me.
I mean, it could be, but it wasn't me.
Well, I've talked to everybody else in the store, and I know that there's not an actual monster in the closet watching my every move every time I grab the vacuum cleaner, right?
I mean, it could be.
Well, in that case, I'm going to focus my attention on the rest of the store for the time being, namely the staff recommendation shelf. You and I have the honor of keeping the Rewind Video staff recommendation shelf stocked with movies that deserve our customers' attention. Each time we update the shelf with 6 new movies, we adhere to a theme. And in honor of Halloween, this week's theme is monster movies.
I've got all my energy drinks lined up.
Right.
I think I understood the theme correctly.
Yeah. I mean, you've got wings, I see. Every Halloween, we embrace the season with a theme that leans more toward horror and scares than any other genre. During our first season of the show, we of course chose Satan as a theme.
Yeah, and we never really stopped hailing Satan.
No, we have not. As listeners know, he kind of factors into every show now.
Yeah, our whole lives kind of revolve around hailing Satan.
Hailing Satan, right. And then in year 2, we chose Blood, which also was successful.
Something else Satan loves.
Yes. Tonight, we're going to talk about monsters. What do you like about monster movies? This was your choice for Halloween.
I think we chose it together.
We did choose it. Yeah, I need to stop placing blame and just agree that, we're both behind these.
Yeah, we chose monsters. I don't know. Monsters it was either that or ghosts at this point for Halloween.
I've got some ideas for the future that may fall into a different category, but yeah.
But yeah, monster movies are great because they're scary.
They are scary.
Or they should be.
They should be. And yeah, you can get pretty imaginative, I think, with monsters. Now, I couldn't help but to notice when I saw our list of 6 films that both of us steered clear of the classic universal monsters, your Frankensteins, Draculas, mummies. What's your relationship with those?
We've had Bride of Frankenstein on the shelf before.
We have.
I think we
also had Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Did we?
Yeah,
I don't think we did.
I brought it.
Okay, I don't recall that whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say mostly those things aren't really that relevant anymore.
Yeah,
you keep trying to make it happen, and it's not working.
They do keep trying to make it happen. They had that soft reboot with Tom Cruise doing his own version of The Mummy, and that was trash bags.
I'll take your word for it. I actually skipped that one.
Yeah, you're better off. But it is true. The world of monsters has expanded far beyond the traditional definition as it relates to Universal Pictures. So I think we've got a pretty wide variety of monstrous pictures in store for our audiences tonight.
It's going to be a monstrous podcast.
As usual, you're up first, so why not kick us off? Get us into the monster mood.
Okay, I'm going to start us off with a new flick. It's from 2023. It's Godzilla -1. This is filed under 99 problems and a giant nuclear-powered lizard is just one.
Yes.
Back of the box. In post-war Japan, Godzilla brings new devastation to an already scorched landscape. With no military intervention or government help in sight, the survivors must join together in the face of despair and fight back against an unrelenting horror. Tagline, post-war Japan, from zero to minus.
Ugh.
I know.
Did someone get lost in translation there?
think that's got to be what's going on there because I don't even understand what they're trying to say. I really don't.
No.
This is the 37th film in the Godzilla franchise.
Holy shit.
There are now
37?
I guess 38 because Godzilla X Kong came out
Oh, yeah.
this year, last year. This is the 33rd by Toho, which is the production company that created the original Godzilla movie in 1954.
They know what they're doing, the Toho folks.
Well, I mean, they invented this.
Right.
Like, that's
It's their wheelhouse.
It's their wheelhouse. The American movies just never seem quite right. Like, some of them are okay,
Yeah.
I guess, but
Yeah.
like none of them are good. But Godzilla is more of an institution than a franchise at this point.
Yeah.
Even all of Toho's movies don't fit into the same universe or whatever. It's just like even the idea of kaiju movies was really just a way to explain like a generalization of Godzilla movies, right? Like that because like before it was just like, oh no, they're just Godzilla movies. Like if you had to explain what a kaiju movie was to somebody who'd never seen one, what would you say? You'd say, well, it's like a Godzilla movie.
It's like a Godzilla movie.
Yeah. Right. This is sort of a prequel or a reboot. Again, like maybe one of those, but also it's not like you can't really prequel or reboot Godzilla just like you can't do it for Batman or James Bond. It's just like a constant churn of new takes on this idea.
Yeah, and I wonder why that is. I mean, I feel like it has something to do with, when you reboot something, you're changing the world, you're changing the tone, you're changing the actors who are playing the characters usually, but none of that really applies here.
No. No. And I think it's also, I mean, I don't know exactly how the Japanese film business works.
Right.
But, those movies aren't concerned with an overall continuity.
No.
They're just making B monster movies,
Right.
I mean, most Godzilla movies fall into the guy in a rubber suit fights another guy in a rubber suit category. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I like a lot of those. Like it started out as a 1950s monster movie and it kept that DNA up to this day. They're B movies through and through, and there's something awesome about most of them. Even though they get weird at times,
Sure.
There's some like weird 80s things going on. This one feels almost like a prestige version of the Godzilla movie.
I think that's a great way to put it.
For lack of a better term. There's like an epic scope to this that you don't get in those older Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
I think partly that's the setting. It's just after World War II, and it feels very much like a real war movie that also has a giant monster in it.
Yes.
Japan is also dealing with having just lost this war, which is, that's not something you get a perspective on in American movies.
No.
Not even just, the Japanese perspective, but like the loser's perspective.
Right.
America doesn't usually deal in that. Godzilla is the king of the monsters. Let's not forget.
He sits on the throne.
Of all the monsters, he is the king.
Right.
And he's dosed out in perfect amounts in Godzilla -1, I think.
Yeah, my relationship with the Godzilla movies is that you're always wanting a little bit more of him. And I think that in the recent American films, they gave us more than we were used to getting. And it almost felt like a little too much because he needs to have some gravitas to him. And you need to be surprised when he shows up. And -1 gives us that again.
And it's a jump scare to introduce him.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like we're going to talk, I mean, insert Jaws reference here, basically. Like there's a lot of that in the movies we're talking about tonight. But that's because it's a tool that works. Like,
Yep.
you know, you tease it out, you make the monster scary. You know, it makes it more scary.
Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of times, and you especially see this in the American versions, but Godzilla can be a sympathetic character. And in this, he's a threat at all times. There's no like, well, actually, like, we feel bad for him and he's kind of helping us and, you know, none of that. No, he's you know, this anxiety in the background for all of these characters. It's just like one more thing for them to be going through.
Yeah.
You know, of the bullshit of their lives. Now they have to deal with this fucking giant monster. The look of Godzilla is great, I think.
Yeah. He looks fantastic and different than what we're used to seeing as of late in the American films. He's got a chunkiness to him.
Like really, that's a good way to describe it. Yeah, he's big. He lumbers.
Yeah.
You know, because in the new ones he like runs around, I think.
Yeah.
Which is stupid.
Think large Russ in monster form.
I do have a kind of a issue with the way Godzilla moves in the water. He's able to stand completely still in water that is deep. You know, like he's not standing.
Yes, right.
So I understand, like, yes, he could be swimming and like his tail is very strong. He's got like
his little legs are kicking too. Probably he's treading water.
I mean, he's got a lot of weight. I'm just saying that like I'm not sure that it would look the way it does in the movie. They kind of make it seem like he's just standing there.
More bobbing, maybe.
Yeah, but that's a small complaint. I'm just, you know, it actually won an Oscar for the visual effects.
It did, and they're tremendous. I am having a hard time separating myself from the idea of what a more accurate Godzilla treading water would look like with his little arms and stuff. But,
there'd be a little bit of bobbing. You know what I mean? It wouldn't be... the way they make it look in the movie is like he's just standing on flat ground.
Right. And that's not.
It seems like he's in water that's like, you know, half a mile deep.
Yeah.
So it just seems a little unrealistic.
But the effects are great.
The effects are great.
They are great.
Yeah, I think maybe that was just like an oversight. But yeah, the effects are great. Everything looks great, especially considering the budget for this was $15 million.
That's insane.
Which, compared to Godzilla X Kong, which I'm not sure if you caught that one.
I avoided that one.
You probably should. That was $150 million.
Ugh.
And I did see that movie. It is incredibly stupid.
Yeah.
Which isn't necessarily a problem, but it's like, it basically looks like a cartoon.
Yeah. It feels, yeah.
And so, you know, there's plenty of CGI in Godzilla -1, but it's how you use the CGI and what you're doing with it. And theoretically, they could have made Godzilla X Kong look like whatever they want, but it doesn't look like a movie. It doesn't look like real life where there's monsters.
Well, I think there calls for a certain amount of planning in the upfront to make a movie like Godzilla -1 because they did a lot of miniature work, and you can tell, but not in a bad way. But if that's not what you're setting out to do from the very beginning, then yeah, you're going to end up with something like Godzilla X Kong.
Yeah. I mean, what is Hollywood doing?
I don't fucking know.
They spent 10 times, and I understand, you know, movies cost more in America for a lot of reasons, but like, how do you spend 10 times as much money on Godzilla X Kong and it looks so much worse? They made this on like a laptop compared to what they were doing for that movie. Yeah, it just drives me nuts.
Yeah, and I mean, I have to believe based on the speed at which Hollywood can churn out something like Godzilla X Kong, the development on that probably, or at least production, began after Godzilla -1 was released. Mm-hmm. And to have this movie as a frame of reference and be like, yeah, we're going to just do it with computers.
Yeah.
Is mind-blowing.
I mean, you could make it look better with computers, I think.
You could
right?
make it look
like
better
that's a thing. Like
better than what we got.
The Godzilla movies keep looking worse and worse as the technology gets better and better. Like the American ones do.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree.
Which I think says a lot. You know, I think a lot of Marvel movies are having the same problem. They're like, yeah, we'll just like CGI everything and then it just looks terrible.
Right.
Godzilla -1 is rated 4.1 overall on Letterboxd. 7,800 users have it in their 4 favorites. and 32% agree with my 4-star rating.
I agree with a 4-star rating.
That includes Brian Espatia, who says, "You ever just stop and think about how absurdly hard the Godzilla theme goes?" And that's true. It does.
It does go
the score in -1 is based on a lot of the old Godzilla themes from the past.
Yep.
So you might recognize it from that. You might recognize it from MF Doom songs. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of it in that. But yeah, it's really good. And so it's just another reason that I'm putting Godzilla -1 up on the staff recommendation shelf this week for the topic of monsters.
This was a treat, and it took a while to come to the States. You know, it was in theaters, and then there was a long lag between when it was
Yeah.
actually on the big screen and then available for streaming or rental. But I know that for fans of Godzilla, we have a customer named Sean who's constantly at the front desk talking to us about Godzilla movies. He would recommend the Apple show Monarch as a way to get a little more Godzilla in your life. But I'm curious, when you watched Godzilla -1, did you watch the colorized version or the black and white version? Because this is one of 2 movies that we're bringing to the table tonight, or the shelf, that have a black and white version.
I didn't realize there was another one. I watched the color version.
Yeah. Yeah. Color's great.
I like color.
Yeah.
The last time I did the black and white thing was for
Mad Max?
yeah, Fury Road.
Yeah.
And you know what? I preferred the color.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't blame you. That's the
Yeah.
world we live in these days.
Yeah.
Godzilla, of course, has strong heritage with black and white films, but yeah, if you've got color, give me color.
Exactly.
Great pick. I loved this one. It was a lot of fun.
Good monster. King of the monsters.
Yes, King. And I'm gonna take us in a different direction. So
All right.
I'll get into my movie and then I'll explain why it feels a little different. So my first pick is from 2015. I plucked this from the Anarchy in the Pacific Northwest section of the store. And my first movie is Green Room. So back of the box synopsis for this. When a struggling punk rock band takes a last-minute gig at an isolated backwoods venue, they quickly realize they've walked into a nightmare. After witnessing a murder, they become trapped backstage by a group of violent neo-Nazis. With no way out and the threat of death looming, the band must fight for survival against their ruthless captors. Tagline, one way in, no way out. Which is,
It's all right.
pretty good.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start with Green Room because, in my opinion, no monster theme is complete without an acknowledgement that people can be monsters too. So there's nothing supernatural here, just human beings behaving in monstrous fashion.
Monstrously.
Yeah, when the stakes are indeed high. This is also a Jeremy Saulnier movie, and I've brought him to the shelf before with Blue Ruin. I just love what this guy does, and he just had another movie that came out on Netflix, Rebel Ridge. I can imagine that one of us might recommend that in the future. It was excellent.
It could happen, yeah.
Yeah, but this is technically his third film, and both this and Blue Ruin are genuinely suspenseful. The tension I think is a little bit higher here, but this is what Saulnier does well. He knows how to make a movie that causes you some anxiety.
Yeah.
So, like I said, while Green Room might not feature supernatural creatures, it does tap into that primal fear of being trapped by monsters, in this case, real-life monsters. The neo-Nazis in this film are fucking ruthless predators. And
Yeah, they're also idiots. You know, they're all
dumb.
of the above. They're, you know.
Yeah. But yeah, you know, the cruelty that they enact, lack of remorse makes them pretty monstrous. Saulnier made this to feel deliberately claustrophobic and gritty.
Yeah.
He tapped into his own experience of being a member of a struggling punk rock band when he was younger, and it ends up feeling pretty authentic in that respect.
It really does.
Yeah.
You can see how these kids get trapped.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, what the fuck else are we gonna do?
Right.
You know.
I mean, they're kind of dumb in this. They're dumb in a youthful way. I think the Nazis are dumb in a backwoods type of way.
Yes.
But stupid decisions abound. But I don't think it ever feels divorced from reality.
No.
So let's talk a little bit about who you get here. Anton Yelkin shows up. He's the bassist in the band. This was his last feature before his untimely death. Every time I see him, I'm like, man, we lost that guy too soon.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. But he's excellent. Imogen Poots is here. She's kind of a local girl who ends up being trapped with the band, becomes an unexpected ally. And man, she's fucking great.
Yeah. The whole cast is good.
Yeah. Patrick Stewart, I think, is the most unexpected member of the cast. And he's the cold, calculated leader of the neo-Nazi group. He ended up reading this script and was truly terrified by it. Ended up like going down, locking all the doors in his house and pouring himself a scotch. But
they're outside. The Nazis found my house.
Right.
Yeah, I would say, like, if anything, he's a little miscast. Just because, like, he brings a little bit too much gravitas to this part.
Okay.
Where it's like, what's this guy got going on? Like, why is he hanging out with all these fucking losers? Just because they're racist too? You know, he seems above all this. Like, if not because of the racism, but more like he seems like a guy who, I don't know, wouldn't be hanging out at this fucking rock club.
Yeah.
I mean, he's good. He's good in this.
Right.
He's terrifying. He's gross, but like, I don't know. He doesn't seem like the guy who leads this club.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, it's hard for Patrick Stewart to not feel like Sir Patrick Stewart, you know? And yeah, I can see the interpretation that he's a little out of place. At the same time, I do like that it's a very different role than we usually associate him with, whether it's fully effective.
It seems like he's like a professor at a university close by. Yeah. And this is what he does on the weekends or something.
Right.
It's a little bit off, but I like him in it.
Yeah. They have a subplot that they allude to involving these guys dealing large amounts of heroin. Yeah. And perhaps that's maybe the appeal for him. But, you know.
That's what it seems. He seems like he's a high-end, big money drug dealer that is using these guys in like this, as part of like a regional distribution outfit.
Yeah, exactly. So why did I choose this? I think it's a masterclass in tension and suspense. This picks up really quickly, grabs hold of you. Pacing's pretty relentless, and the stakes feel real and pretty immediate. I also like that the film does a great job of capturing the reality of what it's like to be in a struggling band. The long, uncomfortable tours, questionable gigs, and the constant
scrounging for food, scrounging for gas, sleeping anywhere you can.
Absolutely. You don't. It's very unglamorous, and I like that this film isn't afraid to show that. But of course, our theme is monsters, and we get them in the form of the villains here. The neo-Nazis really turn this film into something more horrifying than just a survival thriller. I think watching this band fight for their lives and against such an organized and evil force is a pretty brutal reminder of the the horrors that people can inflict. So yeah, in spite of the lack of supernatural creatures, I think we get a good dose of monstrosity.
A lot of blood.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a pretty
violent,
gory movie. Yeah, it's not afraid to show some shit that you're like, I didn't want to see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the general consensus here is that it was praised for its tension and performances, and its ability to create some true horror from real life evil. This has a 3.7 out of 5 on Letterboxd. Only 9% of users agree with my 5-star review. This is my favorite of the movies that I'm bringing to the shelf tonight, but I think I just love Saulnier and what he's doing in the genres that he's playing in.
He seems to be making movies just for you.
He is, yeah. I'm into that.
If he starts making a cannibal movie, all bets are off.
Yeah, right. I was a fan of the user Laird on Letterboxd with his 4.5-star review of Green Room, which was limited to 2 words. He simply said, "Tough crowd," which
no
I think is pretty accurate. Yeah. So Green Room's going on the shelf for my first pick on our monsters theme.
Great choice. Horrible monsters.
Horrible. Where did this come for you in terms of a star rating?
I still have it at 3. I had it at 3. I gave it 3 this time. I think it's probably, I'll probably end up as a 4-star for me at some point, but right now it's a 3.
I hear you.
It is kind of unpleasant.
It's quite unpleasant. But that's what I like.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'm going to take us to 1994.
All right.
The movie I'm bringing to the shelf is John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness.
Oh boy.
This is filed under Insurance After Dark. Back of the box. An insurance investigator begins discovering that the impact a horror writer's books have on his fans is more than inspirational. Ugh, that's an ugly sentence.
Yeah, they should try again.
Tagline, though. Lived any good books lately?
That's great.
Right? It's a good one.
Yeah, that's great.
I don't know if you noticed in the movie, there's a tagline for one of his books. The book's called, I think, Hobbs and something, whatever.
Yeah.
Then the tagline is, if this book doesn't scare you to death, then you're already dead. Which I think is pretty fucking good, too.
Yeah, replace book with movie, and you can slap that on half a dozen things in the store.
Definitely. This stars Sam Neill as the insurance investigator who's looking for an author who has disappeared.
Yep.
And the author is kind of a fictionalized version of H.P. Lovecraft mixed with some Stephen King.
Yeah.
If you're thinking, how weird can a movie about insurance investigation get?
Quite weird.
It gets pretty weird.
It does.
It's like the typical Lovecraftian themes. There's a tenuous hold on reality, a constant questioning of our own sanity, monsters that live just below the surface of our consciousness, ancient cosmic forces. And Sam Neill falls into this world that is being created around these books, and he gets more and more disconnected from reality. And the movie is kind of taking us along with him. Mm-hmm. So there's a very heavy metatextual element to this.
Yeah.
I think this is probably Carpenter's weirdest movie.
I would agree with you 100%.
I mean, maybe Prince of Darkness. That gets pretty weird.
That does get pretty weird.
But I think this is a little weirder.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely his most metal movie.
Oh, it's metal as fuck.
It is metal as fuck. The only thing I could think of that would come close would be vampires. Then I was like, that's not really metal. It's more industrial.
Yeah, with a splash of goth.
Yeah. But there's really no one like John Carpenter.
No.
He's a friend of the shelf, obviously.
We love John.
The Thing, They Live, Christine.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any others, but so this will be the 4th.
Yeah.
Almost definitely not the last time he's on the shelf.
I'm sure he'll be back.
On one hand, he's one of those guys you're like, man, I wish someone would just like give John Carpenter the resources to do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Just because, he's been out of the game for a while. No one's ever given him money to like the money he wants to make a movie, which is like just kind of
criminal,
outrageous.
Yeah.
But also like his genius comes from what he's able to do within the constraints of the budgets that he's been given,
Yeah.
The way he shoots things is so economical in the way it tells the story. His camera work, the blocking, like the dialogue is always super tight.
Yeah.
It all comes from having to make these movies for like, way less money than what he thinks he needs.
Right.
Also like he's never made a movie that's over 2 hours long, I don't think.
Wow. So, I mean, he's making movies for you in this case.
He doesn't have the money for the extra film, especially, back when he was, at his prime, he actually had to pay for film. So he's like, well, we can't make a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
So all of his movies are like 95 minutes. A couple of them are like 110.
It also explains why some of his movies feel like they have a lot of shots where it's like, we just did this in one take.
Yeah.
Let's not do it again.
The special effects, they always have to be like cheap and quick.
And practical.
Yeah. But they always look good, because and it's not because any of the special effects in his movies necessarily look real.
Right.
But he always knows what story he's telling. He knows how he's telling the story. And so he's able to do it in a way that works for the movie. even though John Carpenter himself probably looks at it and goes like, fuck, I wish I had an extra $20 million to make, whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
But I think the highest budget he ever got was Escape from Los Angeles, which was like kind of a disaster in like the visual effects department. It was just like, it looks so stupid. So it's like, and even like the music in his movies, he writes his own music. At least he started out doing it because he couldn't afford to pay someone else to do it.
And his music is great. He's actually released some original music that you can find and buy, and it feels like it just deserves a movie because it's so creepy and scary and so John Carpenter-esque.
It's kind of what he does now.
Yeah.
He writes music with his son, and then he smokes weed and plays NBA 2K basketball.
Fucking love it.
On Sega Genesis or whatever it is.
What a life.
And then he gets a check every time they make a new Halloween movie.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, sounds good to me.
keep making them.
Yeah. I think of In the Mouth of Madness kind of as his version of The Shining.
Interesting.
Just because, like, it's not a one-to-one comparison, obviously. But this is like a man who kind of goes into like a form of isolation.
Yeah.
And goes crazy.
Yeah, he descends into madness.
Into the mouth of madness. Yeah. In this case, it's a small, empty town instead of a hotel.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It just kind of feels like it's his version of that story told through like a H.P. Lovecraft lens.
Yeah.
So there are two types of monsters here, mainly two types of monsters. There's like the townspeople themselves in this town who kind of just turn into these like slimy tentacle monsters.
Yeah.
When no one's looking and they kill other people.
Right.
So and again, like the effects are kind of along the lines of what we see in The Thing. Practical, kind of gross. Yeah.
Yeah.
They remind me a lot of the Evil Dead monsters.
Yeah.
From the it's kind of cartoony, but not really. But there's also this cabal of monsters that is behind this whole thing.
Yeah.
And they're kind of controlling this author to use his books to bring about this presumably evil reality to Earth. I'm assuming Satan's behind this. I don't think they say outright.
But hail him nonetheless.
So like these are like the monsters that are controlling everything.
Yeah.
But I think part of the discordant feeling that you get from this movie is that we never really know what the fuck is going on at any point.
Nope.
Like we don't know who these monsters are, what they are. We don't even really get a look at them. We kind of see pieces of them.
Yeah.
We get a vibe
Tentacles
from them.
under the door and stuff. Yeah.
We don't even know if any of this is really even happening.
Right.
We don't know how any of this works. Like it's like everything is just completely ambiguous.
Yeah. I feel like there is a version of this movie that could exist with some changes that I would enjoy a lot more. I almost feel like I enjoy thinking back on it and talking about it more than I do watching it because it's a bit of an endurance test at times.
Oh, you think?
Well, yeah, maybe that has to do with like John Carpenter gives you some flashes of some things here that I just want more of. Yeah. And like I wish there was more time devoted to the woman behind the front desk with her naked husband handcuffed to her ankle. I want to see more. I want to know more about the tentacles that are under the door and the monsters that are locked behind another door. And so like there's a lot of stuff that feels a little underdeveloped for me and it doesn't come together quite as well as I'd like, but I love the parts and pieces.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. I feel like this is almost Carpenter's version of like a hangout movie. Where it's just all vibes. It's it's all just the tone of it.
Yeah.
And I hear what you're saying though. The story itself, nothing really comes together.
Yeah.
It's hard to even say like what really happens at any point in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit maddening, but that's probably the point because you're following this guy as he's going nuts.
Right. Yeah. You are going along with him. The audience isn't supposed to know what's happening.
Yeah.
In the Mouth of Madness gets 3.8 overall on Letterboxd. I think that's about right. 1,100 users have it in their 4 favorites. 33% agree with my 4-star rating. including Justin LaLiberty, who says, pretty perfectly captures the apocalyptic dread of living in New Hampshire, to be honest. And that is just something I thought about watching this movie. I was like, yeah, like New Hampshire kind of is, it's like 100% middle of nowhere, right?
Oh, yeah. Nobody goes to New Hampshire
I thought
for
really,
pleasure.
I was like, I really tried to think like, what are like the like Manchester's the city, right? Like that's pretty small. Like, I don't know. It just seems like, I'm not even sure New Hampshire really exists. It's a whole state that's in the middle of nowhere. It seems like it's a suburb of Canada or something. I don't know. So I think Justin Liberty was right on about New Hampshire. So yeah, I'm putting this up on the shelf this week for the topic of monsters.
I was excited to go back to this because it had been decades since I've seen this. I was probably in high school last time I watched it. So I was looking forward to going back. And yeah, right now this is a 2-star movie for me, but I could see it going up to a 3. I love John Carpenter and I want to love this, but yeah, maybe I just need to.
I think it's like a state of mind thing. I that really is like this isn't. I'm telling you right now, this is not a 2-star movie for you.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll take your word for it. I'll give it another shot. Maybe it'll be on next year's Halloween marathon, and and we'll circle back.
I'm gonna play it in the store on a loop until you like it.
Great. Sounds good. All right. Well, I'm going in a little bit of a different direction. More toward our traditional monsters with my second pick, and this is from 2017. I grabbed this from the, hey, maybe let's stay out of space section of the store.
That doesn't seem to be going that great.
It's not. My second pick is Life. So here's the back of the box.
Life, man.
Life. A team of scientists aboard the International Space Station discovers the first evidence of extraterrestrial life on Mars, a rapidly evolving organism that threatens all life aboard the station and ultimately life on Earth. As the crew fights to contain the deadly creature, their survival depends on preventing it from reaching Earth. Tagline, be careful what you search for.
It's not bad.
It's not bad. Yeah. So how does it fit this theme? So, like I said, we're definitely closer to a more traditional monster movie. What Life gives us is a fictional creature that isn't as much of a stretch of the imagination as something like what might be lurking behind the doors in the Mouth of Madness. It's still fictional, but perhaps somewhat believable in a world where maybe we discover life somewhere.
I mean, believable in a sense.
Ish. Ish. I think it taps into the classic monster movie formula in the sense of being trapped in a confined space, which is amplified by the fact that these guys are in space, and being hunted by something that you don't understand or really want to be caught by. I would say that this is the closest thing to an Alien movie that isn't part of the official Alien franchise.
It is very similar.
Heavily inspired.
You could just call it Alien something. And
right.
It would probably fit.
Yeah. So the creature here, which the crew of the ship has dubbed Calvin, was designed to feel kind of beautiful and terrifying at the same time. It was inspired by slime mold.
Not a fan of that name.
No, it's cute. It's a cute name.
Yeah, it doesn't fit. It doesn't work.
But slime mold has a habit of growing and evolving in ways that kind of parallel what we see happening here. This screenplay was written by Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, who were the duo behind Deadpool.
Okay.
And I think they've actually done quite a few movies for Ryan Reynolds. He shows up here in a limited capacity. But yeah, they wanted to create a sci-fi thriller that combined horror with some philosophical questions about humanity's role in the universe. There was some speculation that this was a prequel to the Venom movie, but it is not that.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. Go figure.
Define speculation.
Right. Fans hungry for more Venom, I suppose. Yeah. But this is directed by a guy named Daniel Espinosa. He wanted the film to be much more, to be as much about the psychological toll of isolation as it is about the terror of being hunted by a creature. So, yeah, confining this to space and the space station itself was pretty deliberate. I think that he did a good job of creating a vibe that there's a lot of wire work here. It feels like these guys are really weightless. And speaking of our astronauts, we get Jake Gyllenhaal, who he plays like a doctor aboard the ISS. He wasn't originally supposed to star in this. This was supposed to be for Ryan Reynolds, but he had some scheduling conflicts, so he has a small part. Okay. Rebecca Ferguson is here. I always love a good Rebecca Ferguson movie. And then I have to make mention of the fact that we get Hiroyuki Sanada, who's a Japanese astronaut and systems engineer. We saw Sanada in Sunshine.
Yeah, kind of the same part. Yeah. He's the same guy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you see him in a space movie, you can just assume that this mission's not going to go as planned.
Is it the same characters? Is it the same universe?
Yeah, right? So why did I choose this? I love that the creature here, the monster, is a real force to be reckoned with. It's not. It starts off small and seemingly harmless, quickly evolves, growing more intelligent, resourceful, more determined to survive. It
starts off as like a mushroom. It's like slime, and then it goes to mushroom, then it goes to
little like almost
alien.
Like plant thing, yeah. And then quickly into alien. I'm sure you expected me to bring up that we get some point of view shots from the aliens, perspective. Love that.
You are a huge fan. I didn't clock it.
Well, I was pretty stoked about that. I also like that this creature doesn't look like anything that we've seen before. It's not humanoid, and I think that a lot of movies about alien creatures or extraterrestrial life just kind of lazily veer toward humanoid. Even the actual Alien franchise is doing that. And I applaud this for going in a different direction. But yeah, this is also a little more grounded, a little bit more grounded in reality than the stuff in the Alien franchise. Maybe it's just the fact that it's set in something that feels a lot closer to present day than the distant future. And so I think that being more attached to the time that we know makes this feel a little bit more relatable and different than your typical alien fare.
I think it would have been really cool if they would have just made it a mushroom that was attacking these people,
hopping around.
Yeah, and like instead of evolving into something else, if it was just like a killer mushroom.
Mm-hmm. That would have been a different movie, but an interesting one.
Think about that, Hollywood.
Yeah. This is one of two movies that I brought to the shelf tonight that does not have a happy ending, and I also like that.
Yes, you're a huge fan.
So general consensus was that Life received pretty positive reviews, praised for its atmosphere, performances, blend of horror and science fiction. Grossed $100 million against a budget of $58 million, so doubled its profits. This has a 3.2 out of 5 on Letterboxd. 21% of people agree with my 4-star review, and 172 have it among their 4 favorites. I enjoyed Lauren's 4-star review, where she said, I relate to Calvin because I was likable when I was younger. I'm a fast runner, and I want to throw myself on top of Jake Gyllenhaal. So she's finding something to love.
Yeah. I still have a problem with the name Calvin. I feel like that should have been the name of like the chat bot that runs the spaceship or something.
Yeah. It's definitely more of an AI name.
It's not a good monster name.
No.
The worst monster name we have tonight.
And they commit to calling it Calvin. They call it Calvin throughout this movie.
Constantly. Like it's a person they've talked to.
Right. You'd think that at a certain point early in this thing's life cycle, somebody would have said, hey, we got to stop calling this Calvin. That's too cute a name, and this thing's not cute.
Yeah, exactly. It's no longer Calvin. It is a thing trying to kill us.
Yeah.
Calvin was the mushroom that wasn't bothering anybody.
Right. Well, I am throwing this up on the shelf for my second monster pick.
Fantastic. I'm going to take us to 2008. The movie is Cloverfield.
Love it.
This is filed under Monster Bash.
Ooh.
Back of the box. 5 young New Yorkers throw their friend a going-away party the night that a monster the size of a skyscraper descends upon the city. Told from the point of view of their video camera, the film is a document of their attempt to survive the most surreal, horrifying event of their lives. I mean, it's not told from the point of view of the camera.
No.
I mean, unless you except from unless you like believe that every movie is told from the point of view of the camera.
Right. Yeah.
Which it is technically, yes.
Yeah.
But that's so dumb.
Can't we just tell us it's a found footage movie. It's a fucking found footage movie.
Tagline, something has found us, which I like a lot.
Something, as in
space.
2 words.
2 words. That space is doing a lot of damage in that tagline.
I like that.
Damage in a good way.
Yeah.
Something has found us. Real good.
Look at our taglines tonight. We need to do more horror themed episodes because boy, the horror folks get it.
They generally get it. They know what their job is.
Right.
Like tell people they're going to be scared.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is Matt Reeves's found footage monster movie about a group of 20-somethings who carry a video camera around with them during a monster invasion of Lower Manhattan.
Yes.
Which, of course, we would all do. We would keep the camera on, rolling.
The whole time.
As with every found footage flick, there's a conceit to give our characters a reason to have this camera with them the whole time, and it's kind of flimsy here. It's always kind of flimsy.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's a found footage movie, and that was kind of like the whole point of this, right?
Right.
You know, it's like, what if we made a Godzilla movie, but it was from a found footage perspective?
Yeah.
So one thing I love about this movie, 85 minutes.
Brisk.
Not only is it brisk at 85 minutes, at least 10 to 11 of those minutes are credits. So this is like a 74-minute movie. Like, it is not fucking around whatsoever.
Yeah.
Very few of those minutes are wasted. It's in complete contrast to The Batman, which is Reeves's most recent movie, which clocks in at 3 hours.
Well, obviously, they shouldn't have made a found footage Batman movie.
That actually might be interesting.
I mean, I'll take it.
Yeah. Have you seen it?
What, Cloverfield or Batman?
The Batman.
Oh, I've seen the Batman.
Yeah.
I've even seen the new Joker movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Very.
But like a 3-hour Batman movie, like there's no excuse for that.
Fuck no. Just make a TV show.
That movie is at least 85 minutes too long, which is the entire runtime of Cloverfield, including 11 minutes of credits. So, like, what are you doing making a 3-hour Batman movie? Like, it's ridiculous.
So you're saying I could turn on Batman, watch to the part that I like, go watch Cloverfield, come back, and catch the credits of Batman.
So that movie is 3 hours long. So I watched it on 2 separate days. Because like watching it in one sitting was like...
You gave yourself an intermission.
And turning it off halfway through, the thought was... This movie's over, right? Like there's nothing else they could possibly do.
Right.
So yeah, I would say like watch the first half and then watch Cloverfield and come back and catch the last 5 minutes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, because of that, this movie is basically nonstop.
It is truly. I mean, the sequence at the party at the beginning almost feels slow by comparison because everything else is relentless from that point on.
If you've seen it before, you're like, when are we going to get going?
Yeah.
You know, and you understand, of course, why we're doing all this, but also 20 minutes in, we're in the shit. Like the monsters have attacked.
100%.
We're pretty much just on the run for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And the pacing is just relentless, and we're just going, and we're just running from scene to scene, and you know it slows down here and there, but not really. Like we're pretty much in it.
And what I like about this is that it keeps feeding us unexpected things. It's not just that these people are running from a giant monster off in a different borough of New York. They encounter some weird shit along the way that keeps it fresh. And
I mean, there's different monsters.
There's different monsters. Yeah.
There's the big giant monsters, which, you know, at the time, those are kind of like the first time we had seen monsters like that.
Yeah.
Except maybe, I don't know. Maybe in some of the old Godzilla movies, there was something that looked like that, but they're kind of similar to Quiet Place.
Yeah, a lot bigger, but in terms of design, agree.
Quiet Place almost seemed like it was in this universe because the monsters were so similar in a lot of ways. But I don't know. I think these monsters are super scary. But you also get the smaller ones too, which kind of just like, I don't know, the bigger ones shed. You don't really know, but it's kind of gross.
Yeah, it is gross.
But the found footage aspect, the camera work, it kind of obscures the monsters for a lot of the movie. This is again the Jaws effect.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, the shorthand for just like you don't really get to see these monsters until like, I don't know, like really fully until like 10 minutes before the end of the movie.
Yeah, that's accurate.
But you know, it helps the budget, but it also makes them scarier because you don't really know what you're seeing.
Right.
So Cloverfield is 3.4 overall on Letterboxd. 1,600 people have it in their 4 favorites, and 23% agree with my 4-star rating.
Yeah, 4 stars is right.
4 stars is right. Yeah, 3.4 is a little low, but you know, I don't know. I think the right people understand how this is. I thought about kicking this up to 5, honestly.
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah, it's like it's flirting. Yeah, I think maybe next time I watch it, maybe I'll think about kicking it up to 5 because I don't know how this movie would be better at what it's doing.
Right.
You know, it's just a scary monster movie, and if you're looking for a monster movie,
you can't do a lot better.
Can't do much better. So, like, yeah, maybe it is a 5 one day. Right now, it's a 4 for me. Ryan on Letterboxd agrees with me. His review says the most unrealistic thing in this is the camera's battery life.
Ooh.
Which probably is true.
Accurate.
I feel like if you made this movie today, it would just be a collection of different people's cell phone videos.
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
You know.
100%.
But this was still at a time when people had camcorders, ? I don't even know what it was in 2008.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I guess they existed at some point.
Yeah.
But even so, I'm putting Cloverfield up on the staff recommendation shelf this week for the topic of monsters.
I want to keep talking about this because for me, it's hard to not address 2 things about Cloverfield. One is the incredible marketing campaign that surrounded this because it was attached to the Transformers movie as a trailer. Okay. And the original trailer was great because it was like scenes from the party and then you get chaos and the head of the Statue of Liberty like tumbling down the street. And a lot of theater of the mind and just a lot of hype that was built. But there was also a lot of there were like videos and games that they were encouraging people to play that gave you clues about the movie.
Also, the way they put this movie together, they kept everything very secret.
Yes,
which they didn't have to do.
Right.
It just made it seem like this crazy project that these guys were doing instead of just like a cheap movie.
Right.
And also, this was 2008, so it was a time when you could still do a viral marketing campaign.
Yeah.
That wasn't just like, I don't know, just completely cynical.
100%.
Again, which in a way it kind of was, but
yeah, and I
didn't come across that way.
I think J.J. Abrams, who helped produce this, and it was a Bad Robot production, probably played a big hand in building the mythology. And if you like Cloverfield, you can go online and dive deep into all of this stuff, which is still available, and learn more about the story surrounding what happens prior to this night in New York. But that also dovetails into the second thing, which I wanted to mention, which is the franchise opportunity for this, which I think has been largely squandered. We've had 2 sequels, both of which were not supposed to be Cloverfield movies, but were retrofitted to fit into this universe. And I think, in spite of the fact that 10 Cloverfield Lane is great, it doesn't feel like a true Cloverfield movie.
I think J.J. Abrams has said they're working on one that like
I've heard that too.
fits into the universe. I like 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah, I do
think
too.
it's good, but again, it doesn't really, it kind of isn't, it's in the universe.
Right.
Going back to the first point, I think another thing that kind of gave this movie a little bit of some danger attached to it was because it wasn't that long after 9/11.
Right.
And so it seemed like a direct take on that in a way that I don't think anyone had really done before.
No.
And so it was kind of like, what if 9/11 was a giant monster instead?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that was part of the why this movie felt like it was kind of an underground project going on instead of just like a low budget movie.
That's a great point, and I hadn't thought about that. But I mean, this movie is built on a lot of New Yorkers running in fear from something gigantic, terrifying that is happening in the city. And at the time that was a lot fresher on people's minds than it is today. But the movie's still super effective.
Oh yeah.
I think it's great. I'm glad you brought it. It's a great monster movie.
It really is. It's a classic.
All right, well, I'm going to round things out with my final pick. And this is from 2007, plucked from the low visibility section of the store. And my final movie is The Mist, back of the box. After a violent storm hits a small town, residents gather in a local grocery store to assess the damage. But soon after, a mysterious mist rolls in, trapping them inside. As horrifying, unseen creatures lurk within the mist, the group must fight for survival, not only against the monsters outside, but also against the growing tension and paranoia among themselves. Tagline, belief divides them, mystery surrounds them, but fear changes everything. That would have been better if it was just fear changes everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
it says tagline.
Lop off the first 2/3 of that. But I'm going to start with the tagline because while it's not wholly original and not as good as it could have been, it does get at what this movie is about, which is how a small group of people cope with a monstrous threat. And in spite of the fact that there are actual monsters here, we spend more time with the people and their reaction to this than we do the actual things.
We sure do.
This is a 2007 horror film directed by Frank Darabont based on the Stephen King novella of the same name. Darabont had previously adapted Stephen King twice before with Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile, so no stranger to this author's source material. He opted to shoot this in kind of a raw handheld style to help with that claustrophobic vibe, and the special effects team worked meticulously to create the monsters hidden within the mist, taking inspiration from Lovecraftian horror. And the design they ended up with feels very otherworldly, at times pretty terrifying.
More tentacles
under doors.
Yes. I mean, why would you have tentacles if you're not going to have them come under doors after you?
Couldn't agree more.
The whole point.
So while it is a pretty faithful adaptation, the film's ending is famously changed from the novella, which had a more ambiguous conclusion. But Stephen King has openly praised the new ending, saying that this is darker than his own and incredibly more powerful. A lot of the conversation online about this movie is in regards to the ending, which is
it exists because of the ending, right?
It's a pretty dark ending. This was filmed on a modest budget, $18 million. And I think you feel that as it relates to the creatures, the CGI, and even I think the performances. This almost has a B-movie feel to it. Not in a bad way, but it's got that vibe.
It definitely does. I don't know. I'm not sure I love this movie. I don't think I like it that much, to be honest.
That's fair. Yeah, it's pretty divisive. It's pretty divisive.
It feels to me, and actually the tagline reminded me that it feels kind of like almost like a TV movie-ish. It feels like a extra long Twilight Zone episode. Mm-hmm. That should be 42 minutes or something, and it's 130.
I wouldn't be surprised if your feelings about this were not unlike Hereditary, which is like is definitely doing two different things, and you would probably rather it did one of them rather than both of them.
Yeah, I would like to see the 48-minute version of this story or whatever, even like a 85-minute version of this story, because like then that crazy ending has that much more value.
Interesting.
But to me, a lot of this is it almost seems like community theater. You know, like there's a lot of like people like giving their speech.
Oh yeah,
a lot of people going like, I'm gonna like lay it all out right now. Here's like the town, you know, and it just seems like, hey, this is our town with tentacles. I don't know. It just, and if this movie was just like a short 85 to 90 minute genre movie where it's just like, oh, it seems like it's a town, our town with tentacles, and then all of a sudden it has a crazy ending, you're like, fuck yeah. You know, I think it has a much stronger feeling at the end.
I'm not going to disagree with you at all that it does have an Our Town with Tentacles vibe to it. I like that a lot. And I even like that we get these characters who, you know, take their turns pontificating about what's happening. I'll tell everyone quickly who we're talking about, and that's Thomas Jane, who plays our main character. Marcia Gay Harden is kind of the crazy, kooky, religious nutcase who rallies everybody to kind of follow her. Toby Jones is in here. Toby Jones is always fun. We get Laurie Holden, who people probably remember as Andrea in The Walking Dead. And then Andre Braugher. Who doesn't love Andre Braugher appearance?
That's like a right-wing nut job.
Yeah.
Which kind of doesn't make sense, but okay.
Yeah, it's maybe a little far-fetched. But why did I choose this? I like that it's not just about the monsters lurking outside, but truly the monsters within. The group dynamics associated with what's happening in this grocery store, and you know, seeing how fear and paranoia twist people into something unrecognizable, I think is pretty fascinating. Religious hysteria is both infuriating but also effective in this.
Yeah.
But there's also some good theater of the mind as it relates to the real monsters. You know, we do get to see a few of them, but the design of some of them is pretty remarkable. And I love that they weren't afraid to get super fucking weird with a few of these.
The creature design is pretty good.
Yeah. It's definitely bleak. I mentioned that King has praised everything about this adaptation, but the B-movie vibes, they don't bother me. The consensus here was that it received pretty strong reviews for its tense atmosphere and creature design. A lot of critics remarked on the devastated ending, but this grossed $57.3 million worldwide on an $18 million budget. This has a 3.4 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I have it a 4.0, along with 26% of other users. 927 people have this among their 4 favorites. And in George Carmey's review, he says, absolutely no fucking way that's how this movie ended. Which I wouldn't blame somebody for reacting to.
It's a good ending. I mean, I don't mind the ending.
Yeah, it's a good ending. So that's my third pick for monsters. And Rob, with that, we did the monster mash, and in doing so, we've got 6 films that deliver a variety of monster vibes: human, not human, big and small. The 6 films we chose are Godzilla -1, Green Room, In the Mouth of Madness, Life, Cloverfield, and The Mist.
Find us on the internet at rewindvideopod.com to follow us or drop us a line. And don't forget to subscribe to the show, share it with your friends, and review it on your podcast app.
Yeah, do that.
You can do that.
So look,
it's 2024.
It's so
you can
easy.
Do that.
You can do that while you're listening to the episode.
You can do it right now.
Yeah.
Unless you're driving, don't do that.
Yeah, just keep your hands off the phone. 10 and 2. So looking ahead to our next theme, I'm seeing some eerie similarities between where we were tonight with where we're headed. You know, we've got monsters. We're going to money. Monsters, money. We're trading the stirs for the E.
I'm not sure that's a good deal, but we'll do it.
Yes, yeah.
We have to.
Money can turn people into monsters under the right circumstances, so...
For the right amount of money.
So maybe not a huge pivot, but probably a good opportunity for me to recommend a cannibal movie. I mean, if you're being honest.
Here it comes.
Yes, so stay tuned, and in the meantime, feel free to hit us up for a movie to watch. We will see you next time.
Be kind, recommend. Hey,